Right, John, well, welcome to Countdown and to Australia for the first time. Now, we don't know that much about the band Bon Jovi, so if you could just tell us the history from the start, really.
Well, I basically put the band together about 1.5 years ago.
Right.
And it was around a song which is the single of our first album called Runaway. And what had happened was every record company, it seemed, in America had turned down this song. And a local radio station here in New York picked it up. And it started to spread nationwide, and I had what was slowly becoming a hit without a band. And I had been using members of Rick Springfield's band and of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. That's who did the tapes with me in the studio.
Right.
And it was time to put together a band. So I called up Dave Rashbaum, who was a keyboard player I played with through the years. And then the two of us started looking. I found then Alec John Such, our bass player, who led me to Tico Torres, who was with a band called Frankie and the Knockouts at the time.
Right.
And then we started playing out and stumbled upon Richie Sambora, our lead guitar player, who I later hired, and that was really the band. It came together in just a few short weeks.
Right, now, from then what happened?
Well, by then, you know, the actual romantic kind of a dream that you think that a record company guy pulls a contract out of a drawer and says, here you go, you know, it's signed. I had laid down months into years of groundwork, you know, trying to get that major label and making the contacts. So at this time I was lucky enough that I had attorneys to take over the dealings with record companies, and we had played one showcase at a party for a radio syndicate show that was here called Rock USA with Scandal. And it just happened, it was like a place where all the record companies converged to meet over this party for this new syndicate, and it was a chance for me to take the band live. Right. And it was like one of the first times, and so we played, and that pretty much started the buzz between the record companies.
Right, now I was talking to Kish yesterday, and we were talking about sort of like musical directions that seem to sort of go around either in a sort of a merry-go-round. I mean, over the last 2 to 3 years in Australia, even here, especially in England, it was so dominated by synthesized groups. And then there was this switch around again back to sort of rock and roll and good heavy rock and roll. What do you attribute that to? I mean, obviously with back like when you got the reaction from the radio station with Runaway.
Yeah. At that time, a lot of the things like the synthesized sounds, the English synthesized sounds, were on the radio here. So music that we were doing, that I was writing a lot of, wasn't quite that. And so that's probably what hurt us at the time with the record company, but it's a good thing because it seems that it's come and gone already.
Right.
I don't think that things like the hard rock and heavy metal have ever gone away. They've just sort of maybe taken a back seat for a little while and they come up and go back. But it seems that's the most consistent thing in music, or that's pretty much the roots of rock and roll almost, you know, I mean, as opposed to a disco sound or the synthesized pop sounds. They seem to come and go here in America, at least. The kids like guitars, you know, and they like a lot of harmony, and they like the driving live sound, you know, as opposed to seeing maybe a synthesized band where if you were to see it live, you'd almost say, I should stay home and listen to the record because it's more exciting. I need personally, and I like our audiences to come to see us and to sweat as much as I sweat on the stage, you know, or if I can get them to sweat half as much as I do, I know I've had a successful show.
Right.
Because I find with a lot of those synthesized bands, you know, with a bottle of Perrier on the stage saying, well, this is wonderful, that's not what I'm all about, you know.
Right.
I personally feel that if I ever go to a show and am not involved, that I don't want to be there. You know, I'd rather sit home and watch it on MTV or whatever, you know, watching it at home, or just listening to the record and imagining that in your head that it would be better. Because I've seen some of these synthesized bands that are great musicians, but if there's no heart, to me heart is 80% of the band. I mean, I would rather play with guys that are only 80% of the greatest musicians around, you know, as opposed to those amazing musicians who have no feel, who don't know that if I decide to take something off into a different direction, if I just decide to go off on a solo or something, my band knows that I'm going there. They all have that just natural rhythm of what's going on, like somebody like a Springsteen. He gets his audience so involved and he might go into one of his stories and start letting you know about that story. His band knows to follow him, as opposed to somebody who knows that it's verse, chorus, solo, verse, chorus, out.
Right.
You know, and then you say, oh, this is wonderful. I got my popcorn and my T-shirt. I'm going home now, you know?
Yeah.
And then, to me, heart is 80% of the whole thing.
All right, well, we wish you luck.
Thank you.
We look forward to breaking in the charts in Australia and then coming down.
I'd love to.
You'd like that audience.
All right.
An AC/DC homegrown audience.
Wonderful.
Thank you.